Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read, and today I'm going to be doing my September wrap up. So I didn't get to all the books I set out to read in the month of September. Most of you knew that I was being pretty ambitious when I set a goal of like 10 books or something like that. I only read 8 plus a graphic novel, so there are 2 books from my TBR of September that I'm carrying over to my October TBR because I'm just like, I need to finish them and I don't like leaving a TBR undone, so I'm going to push those into my next TBR and include them in that one. But anyways, this video is about my thoughts and feelings on the books that I read for September, so let's get into it. The first one I'm going to start off with is Clap When You Land. I actually just did the live stream show of this one today where we talked about it with our book club, and I ended up giving this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was beautiful. I really liked this book a lot. This was my first book that I read by Elizabeth Acevedo, and it's also my first book that I read that was written in verse. And I thought going into it that the fact that it was written in verse would kind of deter me a little bit because like I like poetry and like I don't mind that genre. It's just sometimes like I don't like having to keep doing the phrasing in my head of how a poem is recited. But the way this book flowed, it just went so naturally, and it didn't like I found myself doing that sometimes in my head, but for the most part, I just kept going through the book so fast. I started this on a Friday and I finished it on a Saturday night, and it's 400 and like I think it's 415 pages, but I would consider it like a lot less for a page count because of the way it's written in verse. It's just so easy to get through. And it was just like I said, it was beautifully written. I found it so interesting because it followed along with 2 different characters. And so you got to kind of learn who they were through like the different wording for each person. And then later on, it kind of blends together, but you can still differentiate who is who because of that buildup of you getting to know the characters. I really liked this book a lot. It was really beautiful. It explores grief, as well as it has a lot to do with forgiveness and just getting to know different parts of yourself. And I thought it was such a nice, like refreshing, enlightening read. Although it was also sad at parts too. But yeah, it was a really good book. Then I read a novella called Conviction, which I will show here. This book was pretty decent. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. It kept my attention for the most part, and it was a bunch of people. They get this like random notice that tells them to come to this place where they could get ahead in this like business venture and make money from it. So they all go to this like warehouse place to find out how they're gonna make money, because money is the thing that makes the world turn apparently. And so they all go there and then realize that it's kind of like a trap, and they're all boxed into this warehouse place that has different rooms that they have to go through, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's like they're trying to escape this warehouse and go through these traps, and they're told that if they do the traps successfully, they will escape and be okay. And a lot of these traps are based on morals, and it's just kind of like trying to see who they are as people and trying to make them a better person. It was very interesting. Like I said, I gave it 3.5 because it was a novella. Like it wasn't too long, which was good. And I did like the ending. The ending was pretty good. I would read more by this author for sure. It's like an easy, quick crime thriller if you want to try it out. It gave me like vibes of Saw, the movies, if you've ever seen those. It wasn't as gruesome or like grotesque as that, but it definitely had those vibes to it. Then I read a book called Someone's Story, which I'll also show here because that was an ebook. This book was interesting. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 as well. It dealt with a character named Someone, and they moved to a new town, and it was just kind of like a coming of age story of a kid going to a new school, meeting new friends, and dealing with past traumas that were the cause of them moving to this new town. There's a lot of mental health rep in this book, and the twist, there is a twist somewhere that like I was not expecting. So when I read that, I was like, whoa, okay, that just flipped the whole script there. I liked the relationships that were built in this book. I thought they were realistic, and it was just interesting to see this character develop from start to finish, where you're still trying to like figure out what it is that's the past trauma that brought them to this area, and you're just trying to like figure it out in the back of your head while reading along. And yeah, I found it very easy to get through. Then the graphic novel that I decided to read was Aquaman Volume 2, and this is The Others. This one I just gave a 3 out of 5. It was a decent graphic novel. It follows Aquaman getting back together with like an old team that he used to be a part of, and Black Manta. He is trying to get their, like, they each have their own golden artifact from this group, and Black Manta is like attacking all different members of the group to get those golden artifacts, because I think when you assemble all 7 of them or something, you get like this ultimate power. And so Aquaman is getting the group back together to try and face Black Manta, but he also is trying to face Black Manta by himself because he doesn't want anybody else to get hurt. And I don't know, it was all right. There were lots of action scenes in it, but a lot of things that Aquaman didn't really make sense to me. So yeah, that's why it just got an average rating for me. I still enjoyed it, and it was a quick read. Then we had The Worst Dogs, and this was the like crime thriller that is set in the Maritimes. So I thought that was really cool that it was set in a place that I've actually been to. I found that the overall ending to it was a little bit predictable, but I don't know, that's just thrillers. Sometimes they are predictable, and sometimes you have no idea what's going on. So in this sense, it wasn't very surprising to me what happened. There were certain characters in this book that I did really root for, and there were other characters that I did not root for at all. But yeah, overall, it was just an average crime thriller. Like, I don't really have too much to say about it. Not much really stood out to me. So that's why I'm just going to give it the average rating of 3 out of 5, because it was just an in-the-middle book for me. It was all right. Then we have A Mother's Tears, and this book is a memoir. So this book is half told about the son and half told about the mother. So this book was about their journey from Romania under communist rule. They escaped there and came to the United States and lived here. And basically the mother gets cancer a lot. And so like they have to deal with that, as well as being a refugee in a new country. And then the son deals with his own struggles. And it was very interesting to read about these two different lives, but how they were so close. They had a really close relationship with each other, and how they got through all of these things together. I can't really like rate it because it's like a nonfiction book of like a memoir. But like if I did rate it, it would be a 3 out of 5. It was an interesting read. I got to learn about their lives and just see everything that they had to go through in their travels and in their life struggles. It was interesting. Next up, I had Devil in the Grass. This book I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This one was also kind of like, I would say, a political thriller, and it was really good. It's set in the Florida Everglades, and there's so many like intricacies to this book, but essentially it's an ex-NFL player, and he gets hired on to be like an intern for a political party, and this political party is wanting to like do this water bill that will affect all the people in the Everglades and around there. And so there's like this cult in the Everglades that kind of tricked the ex-football player into their ranks, I guess. I'm not going to say how they trick him in there, because that's like, I don't know. You have to read it to see. But then he gets framed for the murder of 2 people. And so then it's just this big kerfluffle of him being on the run from everyone because they think he's a murderer, a cultist murderer, and he's trying to like clear his name. There is so much stuff that happens in this book, and I was really enjoying it. Like I read it pretty quickly. There's also lots of gators in this book, and I love like any movies with like crocodiles that are like creepy movies like that. I love them. So that definitely played to my love of that. It gets pretty gruesome at parts in this book, I will say. There's definitely some gory elements to it, so it's not for the faint of heart. Yeah, there are definitely some parts that are brutal, for lack of better words. So yeah, just be wary going into this book that there are some parts that might not pertain to everybody. I mean, I even found them like uncomfortable and cringy, but it also like added to the plot for me because I felt like I was watching like an episode of like CSI but in book format, if that makes sense. So yeah. Also, Marcus pointed out to me that I said crocodiles and gators, and I want to say that I like movies and things with alligators or crocodiles. I know they're different creatures, but I like just those creatures being creepy in movies. It just, I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, this was a good one. Next up was a book called Elephant, which I'll show here. I only had it in ebook. And this one, I don't know what to say about this book because I feel like it was all over the place. I rated it 2.5. I probably would up it to a 3 for like a rating on Goodreads or Amazon. I just like it has good parts to it, and it seems like there's paranormal elements to it, but it's just, I think the way it's written is it's so jumbled that I don't really like, it's hard to keep a grasp on what is happening in the book, and it's hard to understand what's happening. I mean, when I got to the last part of the book, it definitely opens it up to more being added to the series, and it ends with a little bit of kind of like a cliffhanger, but like you have to be ready for it. And the characters are all like they get introduced and they're very different, but I feel like the book just blends together. I just had a really hard time following along with this book, and I kept trying to get into it, but it wasn't grabbing me, and I think that's why. Essentially, the book follows the story of a kid that has a traumatic event happen to him, and he gets an injury from it, and so then following that injury, his friends and family come together to be with him to like help him get through the injury and get through the anxiety and depression that he's going through from said injury. And then a lot of other things happen that don't necessarily make sense to me. And I think that's why I'm giving it the rating that I did. Yeah, overall, it was kind of jumbled, but I think it could be saved if the writing is just a little more fluid. Then I read 1967, a coming-of-age story. This was a book about a boy named Ricky in the entire year span of 1967. One thing I thought that was really cool about this book is that each chapter was a month of the year. So it'd be like a whole chapter's January, then February. So I had 12 chapters. And it was just about this kid being a kid back in 1967. And I thought it was really cool and just interesting to see how life was back then. One thing I will say that I did not like about this book, I also gave this book a 3 out of 5. Yeah, the book had multiple references to the R word, and they said it in like derogatory ways, which, well, I don't think there's any nice way to say that word, but I don't really like hearing that word because I was a swim coach for the Special Olympics swim team, and I find that like that word just affects me in a bad way because I love those people and they're dear to my heart, and they're just the like nicest people you will ever meet. And so I didn't like hearing that in this book. It was just a very negative connotation to it. Just to clarify, the Special Olympics swim team of my town, not like the overarching Special Olympics swim coach. No, that was not my job. But yeah, I didn't like that part of the book. I think the reason why I struggled with it so much was because I'm not sure if it was the author trying to portray like the time it was set in and what was just easily said, or if that's how they actually felt. I feel like the author was just trying to portray the time, and that's why I still gave it a 3 out of 5. I did enjoy the rest of the story. Like, I enjoyed learning about the child and what he went through in that entire year. And there are definitely some parts of it that you won't see coming, which was really good because it keeps you interested. But yeah, overall, 3 out of 5. And yeah, that's it for all the books that I read in September. My other 2 books for my September TBR are added onto my October TBR, so I will have them in my October wrap-up. If you guys have read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below. I definitely want to hear your opinions on them. Or let me know what you read in September, and let's see if I read them too, because then I could talk to you about them. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Coffee page, which I'll put in the description down below. I also have a link to buy bookmarks from me if you want to buy one of those. You know the drill. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I post videos every Monday and Thursday. And until next time, keep on reading.